Hi, guys. Welcome back. I'm Nick Cassiati, your host. Today, we have a three-part series. Topic number 3 is coming at you now. If you haven't seen the first 2 topics, they are linked right above here. We're going to start with our libertarian Kyle. Last night on primetime television, Trump went off on a rampage against the COVID stimulus bill passed by both houses of Congress. Why did he blast the bill? And what are we to expect from Congress and the White House moving forward, Kyle?
So I'm not sure what his particular problems with it was, but the American people is griping, and he's quick to hop on that disgruntledness and put his 2 cents. I'm sure. Obviously, the bill is filled with pork, and because I think it's more apparent now. I'm not sure if it's because of social media platforms, but people seem to be more aware of the pork in this guy. This is a document that's over 5,000 pages. To put that in perspective, the Bible's 1,200. So I don't think anybody has actually read what's in this monstrosity. I would be shocked if you actually read this. You should get money if you finish the 5,300 pages or whatever of of the stimulus or the budget. You should get money. They should have rewards for this. But nobody really knows what's in it. But we've pointed out a couple things, and it's awful.
Joe, why did Trump blast this bill? And what are we to expect moving forward?
You're asking me to take a guess at an opinion based on who knows what. I don't know what's in Trump's heart, why he decided to blast it. But from an outside perspective, it looks like he just wants to piss on Congress. You know, he's on his way out the door. He's less than happy with Nancy. He's less than happy with Mitch. They didn't secure him a second term. And he's in a situation where they put themselves on the deadline. You know, they got to approve this omnibus. They got to approve, the National Defense Authorization Act. They have to. Otherwise, it's a government shutdown until they return to work. So they literally have to stay in session until either the omnibus bill becomes law, or they have to come back after he allows it to pass and repass it. Same with the National Defense Authorization Act. They have to come back into session in order to pass this, in order to keep the government from shutting down.
So, Rez, we looked at Donald Trump blasting this bill that came out of both sides of Congress. Majority of Democrats did vote for this bill, even with now what we're seeing, massive loads of pork added to it. Can you defend the bill?
So look, before we came on this show, it was reported by Maggie Haberman of the New York Times that House GOP feel like they've been thrown under the bus by Trump. And as a Democrat, I love to see inter-party war within the Republicans. So look, why is Trump doing this? Who knows? In my opinion, I think it's because he wants to make it about himself. If he really did want $2,000 per American, he would have been involved with these negotiations. He wasn't. He's tweeted once or twice, but while these negotiations were going on, he was on Twitter out in public complaining about the election, of making false claims about his electoral loss. So yeah, this puts everything into jeopardy because if this doesn't pass, you're going to have about 13 million Americans who are going to lose their unemployment benefits. So who knows what's going to happen? I personally do want Americans being paid $2,000. I support Americans being paid more in unemployment benefits. But now all of that is at risk because of Trump's latest actions.
Just to pull a little bit more out of you, right? I don't have a Republican on here to hit you from the other side, right? So can you support this bill, right? Most Democrats did support it to pass it, to send it to Donald Trump, where 85% of the money in this bill under the guise of a stimulus package is not going to everyday Americans. Can you defend the bill?
If it were up to me, in an ideal world where Democrats control both House and Senate, I would want a better bill. But in a scenario where Democrats did pass a bill that included $1,200 stimulus checks, it included $600 in weekly federal unemployment benefits, it was dead on arrival because of Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell. McConnell would rather corporations get a bailout. McConnell would rather support corporate socialism. McConnell would rather support a law where if a worker gets COVID because of unsafe work conditions, they would not be able to sue their employer. That's what McConnell's fighting for. Democrats are fighting for the working class. And like I said, in an ideal scenario, I would support a better bill. But $600 is what we could have gotten thanks to Republican obstruction. Now with Trump supporting $2,000 checks, who knows what's going to happen? But no, this is not a perfect bill by any means. And if Democrats had control of both chambers, we would have gotten a better bill.
Kyle, looking at this bill, right, we're shining the light on the right and the left. I think social media has really showed us what pork is, right? We're looking at billions of dollars going to other countries. Does this open the door for finally having a third party on ballots and getting votes now that we are able to see what Congress has been passing?
Again, you would hope, but if people stick to their worldview and they find ways to defend data that's indefensible. This isn't new. Pork? Oh my, when do we have pork? We have pork every single year. We have waste every single year. Why? Because when you spend somebody else's money, you're not connected to the pain of production. You don't know how hard it was to create that wealth, and you're not gonna protect the wealth as somebody who has created that wealth. And that's just systemic of what you're doing.
So to the average person that's watching this, I mean, from a libertarian standpoint, how are we really only seeing pork being nationalized or getting such media attention as we're seeing it right now?
Well, it's gotten bad. I mean, if people are just humming along and they're okay with their existence, then it's another day. Yeah. To see that money get squandered is going to infuriate the American people. And when you have that pressure of I have bills to pay, people are going to get hot-headed pretty quickly.
Sure. So, Joe, looking at the Green Party, right, we're seeing Democrats, we're seeing Republicans come up with a bill having immense amounts of pork added into it. I think the population is now more pocket or more money sensitive than ever before, right? We're looking at people that are actually bootstrapped, who are really actually looking for a stimulus to actually help them in their everyday lives. I mean, does this, from a Green Party's perspective, shine a positive light on this bill or not?
Oh, absolutely, especially in regards to the two parties. Right now, we've suffered an economic crash where we've lost nearly 25% of our GDP across the nation. Congress has not adjusted the budget to reflect that, which means they're going to use the exact same money next year that they used this, or the exact same budget next year that they used this year, and they don't have the revenue to justify it. So this 1.4 trillion omnibus bill plus the 900 billion that was added for the COVID relief represents 23 trillion or $2.3 trillion in debt. That pushes our national debt up over $30 trillion. I mean, it's a number so huge that nobody can even grasp the concept behind it. But you're looking at a omnibus bill where half of America is having food and shelter insecurity issues. Some of them are going to bed hungry at night, and they're buying tickets to the Met, the JFK Center for Humanities or Center for the Arts, the humanities, the museums on the National Mall. All of these are getting funds, billions to foreign nations, gender studies in Pakistan, and people are hungry. People don't know if they're going to make rent next month. And our government is spending money they don't have. They've been spending this money for the past 40 years. I mean, none of that's changed. It's just now they're looking at it and going, Mom, Dad, there's no food in the fridge, and you're going off to buy tickets to the Met. Not happy.
That's a great point, Rez. At this point, I mean, it really looks like the national deficit is thrown out the window. I mean, does it even matter anymore?
No, it doesn't. And look, I mean, one of the things that I'm thankful for to President Trump is exposing the hypocrisy of the Republicans. When President Obama was in power for the last during his 8-year term, every Republican you would see on TV were complaining about the deficit. and Trump comes into power, and President Trump has actually spent more in his first 4 years than President Obama did in his first 4 years. Okay, so austerity politics is BS. You know, it's been BS. Republicans would only use it to stifle democratic progress in our country. And when President Joe Biden comes into power, and every time Republican brings up the deficit, I'll be very happy to point out to where they sat silent when President Trump spent on God knows what. You know, he had no problem. The Republicans had no problem giving $1 trillion handout to the very rich. But we citizens can only get a single $600 stimulus check during an economic crisis. That's ridiculous.
If I had a Republican here, you know I have to do it, pull a little bit more out of you. They would argue the point that regardless of who was in power right now, the deficit would have gone up, the money would have been spent. Would you have agreed with that?
During economic crisis, it's okay to spend money because you got to spend money to make money. Okay, but when the economy cools down, yes, I'm in support of raising the taxes on the rich to pay off that deficit. But you have one party in this country that are opposed to taxing Jeff Bezos, that are opposed to taxing the Kardashians. Okay, I'm in favor of taxing Jeff Bezos, taxing the Kardashians, so that we can fund our social services, so that we can pay off the deficit. But you've got one party that are opposed to that, and that's the Republican Party.
Kyle, as a libertarian, taxing the rich, I would assume from your standpoint, would only go so far. If in the stimulus bill, everybody's going to benefit from it, shouldn't everybody be taxed to pay it back?
Yes, everybody. I'm always in favor of a simple flat tax. Taxing the rich doesn't work. Doesn't seem to work. I've seen plenty of studies where the thing is, the rich people are the Michael Jordan of financing. You think you're going to dribble around the Michael Jordan of financing? You're insane. You're not taking their money. They're going to, instead of diverting their efforts to being productive, they're going to divert their efforts to you going through their fridge. So taxing the rich is a waste of time. Stop doing it. And we've learned this lesson. We've had a nominal tax rate of like 90%, and then we dropped it, and we still collected the same amount. So taxing the rich doesn't work. Don't pretend that it does. Taxes in general, once it reaches a certain point, most of that is going to get wasted, and that's just enigmatic of government.
But the thing is, Kyle, is taxation does work. Now, as far as the revenue for the state, yeah, it's not going to change the revenue for the state because they are spending the money. Okay, they don't maintain the profit, but what it does do is it increases the velocity of money. The money goes back into circulation faster while the rich are continuing to accumulate wealth through capital, through land, through property. However, they just do it in a different way rather than stuffing a bunch of money in an offshore account in the Cayman somewhere. So that 90% you're talking about, that was post-World War II recovery. We were building infrastructure all across the United States. That infrastructure was that the money that was collected, the revenue that was collected by the working class, because the rich people invested it back into their companies, back into their people. That went to building infrastructure. Yeah, we collected the same, but the money stayed in the economy. It circulated faster and faster because it wasn't being retained in savings accounts on 1% interest.
So Joe, just to push back on you though, if a Green Party member got elected president next time, right? If we have this huge green wave come in to the United States, which hopefully it happens. I'm all in favor of a third or a fourth party coming into power. That's great. I love diversity. So let's say the Greens come into power, right? We have this massive deficit. Is it something that can be tackled?
No, it actually isn't. As much as I'd like to be able to go back and say, hey, I'm an Eisenhower Green, it's never going to happen. Reason why is because this entire mess was created since Nixon went off the gold standard and we adopted this modern monetary theory of chartalism that has completely jacked up our economy. Between the Keynesian philosophy that FDR brought into the United States with the central planning of the economy, modern monetary theory is introduced by Nixon, the damage that's been done to our economy and the way that we've continued to support it by creating military adventurism and going out and blatantly stealing from all of the other nations around the world. I I don't know that there is a way to actually go in and fix this problem without just hitting the reset button, saying, got it. Audit the Fed, right,
Sure.
Kyle? Audit the
So,
Fed.
so Rez,
Yeah.
then does debt even matter? And if debt doesn't matter, if the national deficit doesn't matter, then do taxes matter? I mean, that really comes full circle at that point. Why even have taxes?
Look, what matters right now is the fact that the American people are suffering. You have people who've lost their jobs, lost their health care, are losing their homes. The American people are facing a crisis, an unprecedented crisis. What we need to do now, what Congress needs to do is push for efforts that are going to help the U.S. economy, help the working class. We're seeing unprecedented amounts of widening income inequality. The rich continue to get richer while the poor and the working class suffer. So that's what we need to focus on right now before we can focus on these other issues. What can we do to help the working class?
Great. Kyle, I'll give you the last word. Libertarian, go ahead.
What can we do to help the working class? Open the economy, reduce regulations, incentivize people to produce. And until you do that, things are going to get sluggish.
Great. We appreciate our guests coming on today. We appreciate you, the viewer, for watching us. Share us on social media. Give us a thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button. Thank you for joining our 3-part series, and we'll see you next time. Bye. Thank you, guys.